Hi, I'm Victor Lambs, and you're listening to The Secrets of Stargate, where we talk about hidden meanings and deeper layers found in the Stargate movies, TV series, and more. Joining me today are Father Cory Sticha. Hello, Father.
Wait, you're not Jack. What's going on? Howdy, Victor.
And Lisa Jones.
Hey, Victor.
Hi, Lisa. Jack couldn't be with us today as his puddle jumper crashed on an alien planet, and now his compass isn't working for some reason. The essential piece of podcasting equipment, the compass there.
Yeah.
Today, we are discussing the 7th episode of Season 1 of Atlantis. Hard to believe it's already been 7 episodes. Childhood's End. In this episode, the Atlantis team arrive on a planet that totally doesn't look like British Columbia and are stranded there by an EMP field that grounds their puddle jumper. They are captured by a group of lost boys and taken to the village elder, who turns out to be a spry young 24-year-old named Karis. We learn that to stave off the Wraith, no one is permitted to live beyond age 24, and that they practice ritual suicide the night before their 25th birthday. Rodney tracks down the device that is generating the field and discovers that it's powered by a ZPM, which he promptly absconds with and takes back to Atlantis. Bad Rodney. With the field down, the Wraith send a probe through to the Stargate. This all comes to a head when Ares, another elder, decides that the Atlantis team is what's attracting the Wraith and nearly kills Karis with an arrow. Fortunately, Rodney is able to reinstall the ZPM and reactivate the field and deactivate the probe before it can report back to the Wraith. Karis is able to celebrate his 25th birthday, and the team gives him the lovely gift of chocolate. What did you think of this one, Father Cory?
Chocolate is always good. Logan's Run meets the Ewoks. I mean, that was my first thought. The picture you've got behind you there, that looked like the Ewok village from Return of the Jedi. And of course, Logan's Run, if you remember, is the same kind of idea that due to overpopulation of these domes, they also a little crystal on their hand changes color and they have to go be taken out. So it's a very similar idea. Of course, this is an idea that's done throughout science fiction quite a bit. I believe TNG has an episode like this and, a couple others. It's not a bad episode. It's not great. It's fine. It's fine. Good to see Lieutenant Kevin Elliott. Thought he died with Lantash, but actually he ended up on this planet. But no, it's not a bad episode at all. I enjoyed it. The two kids were cute.
They were.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think of this, Lisa?
I enjoyed it. I laughed at the Logan's Run. I hadn't thought about the Ewoks. That was funny. I liked it. It had humor. I mean, you feel like we're still getting to know the cast of Atlantis. And I think it's our first, what you would call like a Planet of the Week type of episode, which I guess if you think about it, we're not that far into it. So to get one of those where we're not developing the myth or the plot of the show and all that world building, but it's fun. I love Rodney with the kids. I think that was just my favorite. Talk about comedy and so much fun. I loved it. I mean, go to your room. I love that.
Yeah.
So, it was a nice twist, twist on a like well played out, trope of the whole we can't live beyond this. And then we can have the discussion about whether or not, Stargate finally needs to figure out their morals, like where their moral compass is when dealing with other planets, because someone might need to have a talk with Rodney. So.
Yeah.
Just Rodney.
Yeah, I like this one too. Again, when I think back on this episode, all I can think about is Rodney and his interactions with the kids, which I guess after this episode aired on the message boards, including Gate World, Martin Garrow, who wrote the episode, was saying on the commentary track that the feedback was very negative about how mean Rodney was with the kids. And this is kind of the start of them toning Rodney down a little bit. He's less abrasive and more funny, I guess. But I just love those scenes so much. Yeah, the main plot, I think, has been done before, as you mentioned, numerous times. Not much goes on. There's not a ton, as you mentioned, Lisa, of kind of moral wrestling. That's not even really a main theme of this episode. There were some other things that were cut back due to time and budget. The Wraith probe was supposed to look like a mini dart, not a lightsaber training ball from Star Wars.
Yeah.
Which leads to a very funny, because it's about the size of a softball and it flies by and Ford looks up in the sky and says, "It's smaller than a Wraith dart." Which you're like, yeah, but it was supposed to look like a Wraith dart that was smaller. So yeah. So, but it's Martin Garrow's first episode writing for Stargate. I think it was his first. He was a freelance writer who was brought in. He pitched like 3 ideas. This is the one that they picked. Brad Wright and Robert C. Cooper helped him develop it a little bit. And then after this, he went on, I think, to write another 32 episodes or so of Stargate. So yeah, he became a staff writer shortly after this.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. I get a kick out of the little probe because you see it drop and you hear clunk, but you don't actually see it on the ground. They didn't even bother like bring the prop out and just set it in the sand or something like that.
Yeah, make one out of tinfoil or something. Make a tinfoil ball or something. I think they spent a lot of their money on their forest set, which apparently was very impressive. And they had like additional shots, like, minute long, single following shots of them going through this village and stuff that they just had to cut for time.
Yeah.
I did like them climbing up the rope ladder. Like the kids, scrambling up the rope ladder, and you got Shepard and McKay like, and they get up there and they're all out of breath. I love that.
Yeah. And Ford's just like, okay, no problem. Right up. You know?
Yeah. It was fun to see Ford kind of, being like the fun, energetic, Ford and stuff.
Yeah, he was having a lot of fun at Rodney's expense. So that was great to see.
Yeah.
It's funny you talked earlier about, how people thought Rodney was being too mean. It's like, this is toned down for Rodney.
That's what I was going to say.
I mean, can you imagine the misogynistic Rodney from SG1 with those kids?
No.
And this is toned down from that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, this is Rodney being nice. I mean, okay. I mean, I guess he does become more funny and less mean, as we move forward. But I didn't know they were getting pushback on it.
Right. Did the commentary say anything about David Hewlett vamping on this at all? Kind of ad-libbing a little bit?
They did not so much ad-libbing, because I think Martin Garrow wrote a lot of the interactions with the kids there. He said his main inspiration was as he was flying either to Vancouver or back from Vancouver after doing the pitch, and realizing he had to flesh out the episode. He was lucky enough to be on a plane and sat behind 2 young kids who argued the entire flight and stuff. And so that's kind of where the inspiration for that came from. They did mention that David Hewlett, is very proud of his ability to, memorize pages of dialogue and stuff. So,
right.
But I think, that some of it had to have been ad-libbed there.
Well, and it was, I mean, I love the one where, well, let's play a game and be, the class, let's be a game and be quiet. Yes. I'm not a very quiet person. I can tell.
Yeah.
That was great. And that little girl kept looking so familiar to me. It was driving me crazy. So I did look her up, and of course I can't find her name. Jessica Amley? I don't know how you say it. And she's been in Heartland.
Oh.
Which I forgot the character's name Mallory in Heartland. And I've watched a handful of those episodes. So it was kind of funny to realize this was, younger before that.
Nice.
Yeah, I wonder if Sam Charles, who plays Casta, has been in anything as well. But
I don't think he had a long IMBD. I think it was pretty short as a child.
He had really cool hair in this, kind of like dreadlocks almost, all the kids, with their
he's only been like 4 Things, episode of The Dead Zone, movie called Super Volcano. Yeah, so and the last one was in 2006, so he got out of acting pretty quick.
Yeah, so we start on this episode after the puddle jumper has hit the energy bubble and has crashed, and we get a nice shot of their puddle jumper prop kind of sitting on this very neat, sand dune where they've dumped some sand and kind of made a trench that it came down in. And apparently that particular puddle jumper prop, doesn't really have an interior. So all of the interior scenes, of course, were filmed back at the studio. But starting next season, they have a one that they use remotely that actually has an interior they can use.
So this is just a shell that they would you'd see him, be facing the side of the puddle jumper and see him come out of it or something like that. So you couldn't actually see that it was just an empty shell.
Yeah, and they find the ruins of the ancient city, and I guess Martin Garrow was a little disappointed when McKay finally does find the device, and it's supposed to have been there, thousands of years and covered with vegetation, and it just has like a couple of
branches laying on it.
Yeah, he was hoping for a little bit more than that. And he also mentioned that with the prop, there's a light on the top that in some scenes is lit up and in some scenes it isn't lit up. But the hazards of filming on location, I guess, with a device like that.
Yep. Yeah, but I love Rodney. We're immediately like, "Ooh, goodies! Let's take this."
Yeah.
He just doesn't even think. He doesn't even say, "Oh, doesn't even think about it." I was like, "Oh, I'm going to take this back to Atlantis." Of course, you got to get the one scene with Tori Higginson in it, so she can get paid for this episode.
Yeah. But I like the way she's like, "We can't just be stealing from people."
Yeah,
what are you doing? And he's like, "We could just relocate them to Atlantis. Who wouldn't live here instead of there? So of course it's fine."
Yeah, always the answer. Let's bring them back. We can settle them.
Yeah,
we can't settle them in the city. Well, then we'll just put them out on the mainland with the other race we took from their planet. And
colonizer Rodney.
Jinto will have somebody to play with.
Yeah,
there
exactly.
See, that's he was thinking ahead.
Yeah.
But I like his answer to that. It's like, we can't just steal from every planet. And he's like, if they have a ZPM, we can,
right.
We need it.
He's like, our defense is more important than their defense.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's kind of depleted anyways. And who knows how long it'll actually protect the planet. And, he speculates, is this related to their kind of, 25-year lifespan where they have to, or 24, I guess, or 25, where they have to kill themselves.
Well, and Shepard even brings that up. Rodney's just, all he can think is the ZPM, the ZPM, the ZPM. And Shepard goes, "You don't think these two are related, do you?" And it's like once he gets back to Atlantis, where again, Weir kind of brings it up, and he kind of goes, "Oh," it's like the wheel clicks into gear,
Yeah. I was thinking about that planet on SG-1 that they visited with the dome that was shrinking. Remember?
Yeah, revisions.
And they kept dying and wiping their memories of them because to preserve the dome. Yeah.
Very similar idea. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and that's the kind of the main moral quandary here is will Karras, kill himself as timing is everything. They happen to have arrived just on the day that he's supposed to kill himself. So we get to see them setting up their ceremony, and Shepard is kind of chosen as his best man.
Mm-hmm.
And, Ares wants to make sure he goes through with it. Ares is kind of like a more of a hardliner there, but Karras seems pretty cool.
Ares must be the next in charge. I mean, seriously.
He would have been the next leader.
Yeah. He's like, "Hurry up, dude. I got plans.
Get out of my way.
I got to be in charge now."
I only got a year to live, so I want to get my my stuff done. Boy, that solves a lot of problems with politicians. Oh wait, I'm not going to go there.
Well, there is a slight secondary moral quandary that they only touch on and then dismiss, and that is that they believe it's their religion, that we can go to a better place if they're killed by the Wraith. So therefore, they have to die peacefully by their own hand, in order to go on to, their peaceful rest. And so, and they kind of talk about it for a minute, and then they're like, "That's a bizarre religion, and what do we do with that?" And they were like, "Oh, pshaw, it doesn't actually matter because all of this is fake anyway." So they just kind of shove it aside and like, we're just not going to touch that.
Yeah. Rodney just kind of gets a look on his face like, "I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to say anything."
Yeah. But I like that SG-1 and Atlantis, Stargate as a whole, they always just kind of, I don't want to say sidestep so many. They bring these things up and then they're like, we don't want to rock boats. We're just gonna solve the problem another way.
We need to get back to our standoffs with the kids with holding the arrows and the and the guns.
No real world problems. Still, it's not. Let's introduce like all these episodes. We introduce like I don't know, really bad things, and then we're like torture and things like that. And we're like, oh, but they're fine. It's good.
Yeah, no big deal.
Well, yeah, and it's another case of where a Stargate team arrives and potentially could wreck like a stable planet just by being there, pretty much. But they get their puddle jumper back in the end, which is good.
Get their puddle jumper back at the end. Leave a whole bunch of chocolate, an MRE bag full of chocolate.
Yeah. Which Ford had to hand to Karras because Joe Flanagan didn't want his character to do it because he thought it was a little silly. So I don't know. It's some
Really?
So he has. Yeah. I don't know what the story, but
that's Shepard's character, because Shepard's the one who gave the kids the chocolate in the first place, wasn't he? Or was that Ford?
That was Ford. It was Ford. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then McKay gives them more chocolate later.
Shepard's always engaging with kids, and so that is kind of odd.
Yeah, I think maybe they changed that. But so when they come back, they're smart enough to park the puddle jumper outside of the energy bubble, the EMP bubble. But then Rodney says he's able to turn up the field so that it covers more of the planet.
Yep.
So I didn't know if they had to move the puddle jumper back again before he turned it up. Maybe I'm overthinking
Or they
this.
parked it where it would be out of it in the first place.
Yeah, maybe.
Planning ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I like that he's able to, just a much bigger area with just a tiny bit more power to use.
So Rodney, and maybe he does this in a future season, I cannot remember. Rodney needs to find like a battery, like some way to check how much power is in the CPM without just taking it out and hauling it back to Atlantis and then bringing it back.
Seem to recall that eventually their little sensor things can kind of say, oh, wait.
Because it kind of seems a little silly. Like, let's just dismantle their shield. It'll be fine.
Yeah. Nothing's going to happen. Never mind the Wraith soldier sitting there with the little alert beacon still on his arm.
Yeah, which I thought was pretty cool. Just they have the dead Wraith sitting there, as kind of part of their temple. And, his beacon's been deactivated by the EM field. And then once that's off, it starts to activate again, which I thought was kind of cool. And then, Shepard and Taylor notice it. Just the way it's staged was kind of funny. It just happened to be like in their line of sight.
Yeah, and there's that shrine, that's their sacred shrine. So of course he immediately defiles it by ripping the arm off and shooting the thing until it's dead. Yeah. Which gets another face full of arrows.
Yeah. So I guess like it's at this point, like for each episode or when they had a new writer or something, they would print up T-shirts, to give to the crew, funny lines from the show. Mm-hmm. Just given their tight shooting thing, they didn't have the extras on set do the gasps of surprise and stuff when he rips the arm off and stuff. They added that in post later, and they just have people they bring in who just do that. And I guess one of the people in the crowd that they brought in to do that like just shouts at the top of their lungs like, nothing like this has ever happened before. And they just and they had to redo it because it was just so that was the T-shirt that I think Brad Wright made up for Martin Gero as his prize for his first episode.
Funny.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's an episode as you said. I guess we could touch. I mean, obviously suicide is bad. Don't do it, especially not to in some misguided cultural sacrifice to appease the Wraith or whatever. That's bad too. So
you notice, I think I don't remember who it was, if it was Shepard or somebody else, asked like, what happens if you don't go through with it? Do people not go through with that? And I forget how he said it, but my understanding was, oh yeah, they'll help you go through with it.
Yeah, like, you're going through with it one way or the other.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
willingly or otherwise.
Yeah.
Be the Logan's Run part of the Logan's Run. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I did think about that. Only I think in Logan's Run, the movie, the age was 30.
Yeah, I can't remember
Yeah.
what
I
it
don't
was.
think it was 25. I think it was 30.
But same idea, though.
Yeah.
That's-
Yeah.
The idea of, the dome can only hold so much. So we have to.
And it was
You hit
a
a point-
sacrifice for the, for the community, for the good.
Yep.
And then you'll be, I think, reborn or regenerate, a new life. You'll have,
supposedly, yeah.
you'll come back in another form or something, or as a baby.
Yep.
Or yeah.
Any other thoughts on this episode?
So what y'all think about them calling out how old Ford's, the
Oh
20,
yeah.
what do you say, 25, 26? Like he's
Oh, yeah. He was
he's-
just right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
He was
mentor.
26. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did kind of interesting is they basically took a Native American sweetgrass smudging rite. When he
Oh
was-
yeah.
When Karis was standing there doing it, getting ready, getting the paint on his face and all that.
Mm.
They're doing literally, the same kind of bowl I've seen on Indian reservations, at least here in Montana. And they're doing the little smudging rite with the feather and all that.
Yeah. I mean,
I didn't know.
just use what you know, I guess.
Yeah. And did
Probably
y'all
something they-
recognize Ares?
Oh no,
from
I didn't.
Battlestar Galactica. He was Jammer.
Oh, nice.
Oh, okay.
Battlestar- Yeah.
Been a while, so I'm going to
And
have to
then
watch
there was
that
a
again.
little at the very end. He's credited as Crossbow Villager, which just
Yeah.
one of the kids that ran up at the very end with the crossbow. He was in the episode. I'm trying to think. I don't remember the name. It's the one where, oh gosh, my brain. Old woman doesn't wear a lot of clothes, and she rearranges everyone's DNA with Jonas.
Oh, Nirti.
Nirti.
Yeah.
He's in that episode. He's one of
Oh,
them.
really?
I think he was the one that Alabran. Was he the one that turned into water at the very beginning?
Maybe.
Hmm.
Oh yeah. He might have been there. And they mentioned that there was another Shane Meyer, I think, was another actor that they had in this episode that they wanted to use more, but just didn't have a lot of
Yeah.
lines for them to say.
Hmm.
Yeah. And then I think they're one of the girl that was consulted as one of the older elders. I
Mhm.
think she was in 100 Days. She played the girlfriend that got lost in the cave with the other kid
Oh, okay.
back in the day. Yeah, so there was a lot of I would say Vancouver actors who've shown up a couple of times now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, both these series, they use the Vancouver acting pool quite
Yeah.
freely.
Yeah, because you look at it, I mean, their credits, there's a ton of,
Yep.
all of Vancouver shows. Oh, no, he was, okay, so that was what it was. Sean Meyer was the son in 100 Days
Okay.
that ran off with his girlfriend. And the girl that they talked to, that Ares was conferring with, she was the girlfriend. So they were both in 100
Oh, okay.
Days together.
Nice.
That's cool.
So, yeah. It was kind of
Nice callback
random
there.
little reuse. I guess they needed young people and they were like, hey, y'all did really good a couple years ago.
Yeah, and it's that magic Stargate number of 100 days and 25 years. Everything has to be
Oh, yeah.
easily.
Even
Mhm.
numbers.
But
Yeah.
yeah.
So were there other languages?
We
titles?
did have some
Yeah.
other languages on this actually. In French, we had la fin d'innocence, which is the end of innocence.
Mhm.
In most others, it just translates out to childhood end. But in Germany, we get Selbstopfer, which is self-sacrifice. So
course,
they're
yes.
focusing in on that aspect of it.
Yep.
But yeah, not much else to say about this one. But we do have some feedback on our previous episodes. The first piece of feedback is on our episode 157, which was the SG1 episode Icon. And this is from Steven 64138. And Steven writes, I think you really missed the mark on this one, especially from a Catholic perspective. There's so much more to say about the duo of episodes Icon and Ethon. Maybe it's badly directed and lazy on the side, but it's really much science fiction made right. Dealing about real-world issues in another world than ours, and it ends badly, which is very rare and so worth noticing. a bit disappointed here. So we're sorry to hear that you're disappointed, but I, speaking only for myself, I haven't watched the Ethan episode in probably about 20 years. So we'll be coming up on that one before too long, and that might help recast this episode an icon in our eyes. So yeah. So it is some of the ones that we think were kind of meh episodes. A lot of people really like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's the great thing about doing a podcast, is that people can agree with you or disagree with you.
Exactly.
And we have another piece of feedback. This was on our episode 158, which was Stargate Atlantis Suspicion. And this was from Hammond OT, and they write, "Welcome back, Father," and then 2 thumbs up emojis.
I'm here and gone again, back and forth. I won't be on the podcast for much longer. I don't know when exactly, but for those who hadn't heard, I'm going to be joining the Air Force as a chaplain. So at some point, I'm going to have to say goodbye, probably maybe not for good, but for a long time. They kind of frown when you have training and go, "Sir, I need to do a podcast." They might frown at that a little bit.
But it has an Air Force connection.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The show was sanctioned by the Air Force. That counts, right?
Yeah, we were hoping that if they ever make a new Stargate show, that you can kind of be the Air Force consultant on the to the show.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you could add that moral, explanations that they are so often lacking.
There we go. That'll work.
Yeah, I think this episode would have been this current episode, Childhood End, would have been a lot more impactful if it had that. So
Exactly.
All right. Well, we'd like to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the Secrets of Stargate, including Barbara G., Kimberly W., Frank R., Mary Jean C., and Toby T. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Stargate and all the shows on StarQuest. And you can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. And be sure to follow the show on Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or find our video versions at youtube.com/StarQuestMedia or on Spotify. To find previous episodes of Secret of Stargate and to send feedback, please visit sqpn.com/Stargate. And you can email us at stargate@sqpn.com or follow StarQuest on social media at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia or on Twitter at SQPN. And we'll be back next time with the next episode of SG-1 Affinity. Until then, Father Cory, thank you for joining us and sharing the secrets of Stargate.
Thank you, Victor.
Lisa Jones, thank you as well.
Thanks, Victor.
And once again, I'm Victor Lambs. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Stargate on StarQuest. And remember, of course it's not the same. Veal is delicious.
Anyway, I'm sorry, but that just happens to be how I feel about it. What do you think?